Hello everyone, welcome back to the ONLE Networking Show, news, education and member spotlights from ONLE. I'm James West.
And I'm Kelly West, and we're the co-founders of ONLE Networking, the business network for people who like people.
You said that with a lot of gusto.
With a lot of gusto. We
Love
like
it.
people today.
We do like people, yes. Not technology so
Not
much.
technology, no.
But we digress. We've got loads coming up on the show. We're going to be talking about goal setting and why more importantly, with all the best intentions and all the hard work, business owners often fail to meet their goals. Great topic, this one. We're going to be listening to Kelly's next networking gem, and we've got a fantastic interview lined up with Jo Renshaw. So we're going to be talking about money mindset. The ONLE Networking Show is presented and sponsored by Get Set Solent. Get Set Solent is a fully funded business support service serving businesses in the Solent area. We'll tell you more about the incredible range of services they offer later. But for now, guys, thank you for your support. So let's move on. Let's talk about our topic this month, which was goal setting. It was inspired by Helen Tuddenham's ONLE Talks. And as I've already talked about, the main takeaway for me was this idea that there's really two phases to goal setting, and we might have to talk about semantics in a minute, but that's all right. The motivation, that's the kind of top level stuff, and the system. This was my interpretation of it. So in terms of the motivation, it was really about establishing whether those goals are actually suitable for us. Are they the ones that we really want to achieve, or are they maybe someone else's version of our goals? Because of course, if you're not really motivated, don't matter what systems you put in place, you're not really going to put in the effort to achieve them. Helen had a really good way, didn't she, of talking about how to understand whether a goal is suitable for you. Do you want to share a bit of that?
Yeah, this one really resonated with me after an intervention by Paul Hill, one of our members. So a shout out to him as well. Helen talked about visualising you in the space where you've achieved that goal. So that might sound a little bit woo-woo for some people. It kind of did to me to begin with. And Paul Hill said to me, well, replace the word visualise with imagine. We can imagine. So that actually worked for me much stronger than it did to be able to visualise it. So go back to the original point there. So Helen says, sit yourself down, shut your eyes if that helps, and imagine you in the space, whatever that space may be, once you've hit that goal. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Are there any sounds around you? Can you smell anything? This is all going to be dependent on what the goal is, of course, but what is the environment like? Is it changed? Have the people around you changed? You know, really get into the nitty-gritty of imagining or visualising what that outcome would be. Now, if that doesn't excite you, you're probably not striving to hit the right goal for you, because it should be exciting. You should feel passionate about it, and you should want to absolutely feel all of those things that you think you're going to feel when you've done that.
Yeah, because if it lights that fire in you, then you've got the option to say, all right, well, it might take me, I might achieve 0.1% of this every day for the next 5 years, but at least I'm moving towards that and keeping lighting that fire. I think the important thing, my understanding of the science of that, because visualization is actually the wrong word. It was more to do with filling it with a lot of kind of other emotions and sense information. That's the right word. Because it's the sense information that kind of tricks your subconscious into thinking it's real, and then it will invoke the emotion and really give you that signpost. So that was a cracking tip.
Yeah, it was. It's also important to think about the fact that if the pain of getting to that end goal outweighs the result of achieving the goal, that's a tough place to be, isn't it? So if you're continuously, you know, having a negative effect on yourself by trying to get to an end point, you're setting yourself up for a fail.
Definitely. Well, we had some great quotes from the members this month about the kind of bigger picture side of goal setting. So Kelly's going to run us a few of those.
Got a cracking few here. Again, Denise Willier, friend of the show.
Friend of the show,
Denise Willier. I believe you have seasons to your life, and you have to find the goals that fit where you are now and what season is coming next.
She's brilliant, isn't she? Brilliant. That's a really nice way of looking at it, isn't it?
It is.
And that's also the point about changing. You know, adjust them. They're not always going to be. I wanted a Ferrari when I was little. I don't even like them now.
So you'd say no if somebody gave you a Ferrari?
Yeah, I'd sell it and buy something else.
There you go. Put my teeth back in. Rob Edmonds said, be content. This one really resonated.
This,
I did love this. And Rob, new member to the network, so welcome. talks about the fact that I just want to earn enough money to pay my bills and lead an okay lifestyle. I don't have necessarily grand plans and big goals that I want to achieve. I just want to be able to enjoy my life and make that as simple as I need it to be. And I think we do overcomplicate things as business owners, don't we? If we were all employed, we'd be getting our wages, we'd be spending it on what we wanted to spend it on, and we wouldn't necessarily be goal planning to the extent that we feel we should when we're business owners. So I think being content, being in the moment, that was a great one from Rob.
Huge one.
I thought about that a lot since then.
Yeah, well done, Rob.
Jo Renshaw, I have one goal each year and others which might not make it, but that's okay as long as I hit the main goal. Brilliant.
You get more about that on the show later.
You will do. Yeah, you absolutely will. But again, don't overcomplicate it. What is the one thing that you want to achieve? And if there's other bits and pieces around the periphery, then fantastic.
So that's some good tips, isn't it, on the bigger picture, particularly with adding in Helen's, I nearly said visualization again. What would we call it? Sense invocation. It's actually a word. It's not. Then there's the practical, isn't there? And again, this happened last month, didn't it? We ended up reading a book for Business Book Club, which dovetailed really well with this subject because it's Atomic Habits. A lot of you would have read that book by James Clear about the 1% incremental improvements every day. But it's also, he said, the reason we don't hit goals is not because of the lack of desire, it's because of the lack of systems to support the achievement of those goals. So Atomic Habits taught us quite a lot about the system side of it. And we had some great chats about this. Sam Sharma, he's kind of appeared into our life like a sort of beacon of energy. He is an actual person though, not just some sort of ethereal concept. He talked about, this was a great way, and I said semantics earlier, but he said, rather than calling them goals, which seems a bit sort of utilitarian and a bit boring, quite frankly. He said, I have dreams and I have tasks and daily standards which help me achieve my dreams. So he said, when you keep trying to create more to-do lists and you're trying to tick them off, it's more about having standards. So each day I'm going to work da-da-da-da-da. I'm going to work towards that specific outcome. That was a really cool way to look at it, because he said goal setting can lead to burnout. Instead, the trick is to incorporate who we want to be into our daily tasks and standards. Wise words from Sam. Rory Berry, the very fun, very brilliant Rory Berry, he likes Lego. Fact. Lego bonsai tree, yeah. I wonder if anyone was watching it thinking, that tree's a bit weird.
If people are listening and not watching, they'll think it's even weirder.
There's a Lego bonsai tree there. Rory said, you won't get all your tasks done, but that's okay. Win the war at every battle and celebrate the steps on the journey. So that's quite similar to what Rob was talking about, but just really nicely expressed by Rory. Matt Pinion, holiday booker extraordinaire. Yeah. He said, have one or two goals, don't overcomplicate it and overwhelm. Yep. Again, great point. I'm guilty of this. I've got 10 when one or two is quite enough. Here's a final tip for getting stuff done. Kate Chasty, she did say it's not her methodology, but it is. No,
she said it.
She borrowed it. The 1-3-5 plan. It helps business owners focus on what's really important to them. This is really simple, really clever. One sheet of A4, create one top level vision. Identify the 3 objectives that will be critical for delivering that vision, and then the 5 action needed for each objective to be achieved. Great. That's a really good way of keeping on track, isn't it? And not straying and, you know, getting sucked into, oh, I'll just clear these emails. No, do that stuff first and then clear the emails, but, you know, enough of a breakdown to not sort of overwhelm.
I feel like that one was pointed at me a little bit, possibly.
Maybe.
There we go. But whichever method is best for you is the biggest part of that task, isn't it? Is working out actually what resonates with you and what's your method of goal setting.
I think the most important thing is to avoid what the narrative of business and other people tell you, because that's never going to resonate with you. We've all got to work out what's the right goal for us, the right kind of business for us. And if you don't want to build a huge business, good, fine, don't worry about it. Don't stress out trying to do that thing. So I think we learned quite a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, very good.
Fantastic. Kelly, did you know that Get Set Solent offer businesses in the Solent area fully funded access to a range of really important business services. So there's things like marketing and business workshops, there's one-to-one support, there's networking, and probably most importantly of all, there's access to grant funding.
Well, I didn't realise, but after looking into it, qualifying businesses who enrol in the programme will be matched with an expert advisor who will help them realise their business growth. And this might be through marketing, business strategy, or help to apply for one of the Get Set Solent grants.
Yeah, and because Get Set Solent is a fully funded business support service, amazingly, these services are available for free, as you say, for qualifying businesses. So check them out. Go and have a look at the website, getsetforgrowth.com/Solent, and see if you qualify for some of this support. So for the next segment of the show, I'm going to deal with the elephant in the room first of all. The astute of you may have noticed I'm wearing a different outfit. That's not because I went and got changed. It's because we're recording this segment on a different time, on a different day. So I just want to welcome our special guest to today from our sponsor, Steen Stones from Get Set Solent. Hello, Steen.
Hello, thanks very much for having me.
You're very welcome. And thank you for sponsoring and supporting the show. We are very grateful.
No, it's our pleasure. We're obviously being part of your network for a little bit, and the alignment between our two businesses is completely sort of spot on. So it was a great opportunity that we jumped at.
Fantastic. Well, yes, you have made my job quite easy because I don't feel like I've got to appease the advertisers, because you guys are doing so much good stuff, which is exactly in line with what we believe in. So let's talk about that. Let's just set the scene. We've introduced you on the show before, but tell us about Get Set Solent and the kind of services that you're offering to businesses in the Solent region.
Yeah, certainly. So yeah, Get Set Solent is a part of a larger program. It's been running for 40 years, providing fully funded business support to SME communities, all the way down to Cornwall, across the south coast, up to Cambridgeshire as well at the moment, Bristol as well, in that sort of area. And it's, as I sort of said there, I always have to repeat, it is fully funded, so the businesses don't have to pay for it, anything like that. They can just they can access it, and then we get the funding from European Union or the UK government or other benefactors like JP Morgan, and that have also supported our program. So I mean, it's been obviously 40 years. It's been going really well. We've supported in excess of 7,000 billions. We've leveraged at least 70 million pounds, if not more. I think our stats are probably a little bit dated on that one, but at least 70 million pounds as well in finance to help these sort of SME communities. So it's a really great program. I've been involved in them for the last 6 years, and supporting from startups to growth enterprises.
I'm going to just deal with the journalistic question, because the cynical part of my mind, and I know some of the listeners, the watchers, may think the same thing. Too good to be true, surely. Just give us a bit more of that context around the funding and why this is freely available services.
Yeah, no, yeah, of course. So I think the EU government, the UK government, even sort of the big sort of employers like JP Morgan, etc., they realise the important part that SMEs play in the UK economy. So they very, obviously we've heard the stats, 90+% of the UK economy is made up of small, medium enterprises. So from that, they know that they really need to support these businesses around getting their business strategy in place, getting their marketing strategy in place, learning where they can access finance from, because there is a lot of finance out there, but half the battle is trying to find where it is and who you've got to speak to and who is eligible. It's obviously my job to be aware of this stuff, but still a full-time job trying to keep up to date on all the different funding that is coming through all the time. So it's a central part of the government. The EU was always a big funder, especially around some of our areas such as Cornwall and things like that, to kind of help stimulate the economy. And we've been sort of guaranteed that the UK government is picking that up as well with what's called their UK Shared Prosperity Fund going forward.
I think it's really important, this, isn't it? Because I know for a lot of people, cynically, they think, oh, there's not funding for my business, it's for certain types. But I've never, for example, kind of delved into what's available to help my businesses in the past. I wish I'd known you earlier, and wish I'd known what was available. Are people surprised sometimes by the level of support and help they can get?
Yeah, I think we often get, what's the catch, as you sort of mentioned earlier, people asking, with our grant program that we have as well, where we're able to support Solent-based businesses within this particular program with grants to help them grow their businesses, and that they always think it's a loan, or they've got to do, jump through, so many hoops or anything like that. And it's like, no, it is a grant. You do get to keep the money. Obviously, the projects have to be eligible, and there is some a small print that we have to follow on it, but it is money there to support the businesses to grow. And I think, that is always the first sort of hurdle that we overcome when we sort of meet with a business.
Yeah, fantastic. So you've got a very fascinating career yourself, and obviously now working with small businesses, I'm sure you've got a lot of knowledge in terms of the challenges that they face. What would you say are the most common ones, particularly for startup or young businesses? What do they need help with?
Yeah, so I guess I'll sort of tackle first the growth businesses, because they're kind of the key ones, a little bit different. They're the same problems, but a slightly different angle for the small startups. But for our growth businesses, it always comes back to the two main categories. It's finding enough high profitable customers, and it's probably profitable customers is the key word there. Obviously, sometimes we can find lots of customers, but they're not going to generate the growth that we want in our business. So a lot of our support is around the marketing strategy, making sure your business strategy is also placed, making sure you've got the right business model to sort of grow your business going forward. So that's the number one element I think businesses come to us for. And then close second is that kind of thing I said about accessing finance, because there is the whole grant and funding landscape. Depending what sector you're in, there's loads available, or some of the other sectors there's not so much available. But then the traditional finance as well, such as the traditional startup loans, your British Business Bank loans that are available if you want to go for seed funding, crowdfunding. So there's always this change in landscape, especially with fintech, advancements coming. There's whole, different types of funding that can become available, merchant advances, and those areas. I'll have to drop it in because it's my area of interest and expertise, but also around launching NFT, non-fungible token projects to generate finance for your business. So it's a constantly evolving sort of landscape on that finance front. So we support a lot with that as well.
It's good to know as well that it's being delivered from an independent source, because I know for a lot of small businesses, marketing in particular, who do I go to? There is myriad choice of people cutting it a different way. You guys presumably can offer what is the right or best kind of prediction, rather than this is what I'm trying to sell, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't, other than really wanting to support businesses, that's why we're in this. This is why we do this job. We don't have any motive. There's no upsell. We're not trying to get you into, kind of take part in our marketing package or buy our leadership and development program or anything like that. Our aim is to give the best advice we can, try to signpost businesses as best we can, try to give them the benefit of our experience within working in startups, small, medium enterprises and large corporations, so that they can grow. And past that, there's no, we get nothing for getting them to sign up for a loan or a grant or any type of finance package or marketing packages. So that's always nice to be able to come from that kind of impartial perspective.
That must make life a lot easier for you as well. And there's loads of entry points, isn't there? I mean, myself and Kelly have already talked on the show about some of the training courses that you offer, offering exactly the kind of topic discussions that we know business owners want to learn, like using Instagram, LinkedIn, marketing, funding, things like that. But then there's up to kind of face-to-face or sort of one-to-one mentoring type training that you offer as well. Tell us about that a bit.
Yeah, no, so I mean, so we listen to our businesses first off. So we've been delivering, the company as a whole, been delivering for 40 years. So they've learned there are some core principles that every business asks for. And that's why we put together what we call our Accelerator program. So it's all the way from, it's only 4 modules long, and it takes you from making sure you've got the right business strategy, you've got the right foundations for what you're doing. Then we make sure you're getting the most value from your current customers before trying to jump out and get more customers into your business. 10 times as much cost, from various studies, to acquire a new customer rather than trying to maintain your current customer or upsell to them or referrals or all these other options. Then we look to how can you acquire new customers, and then we also look to make sure that the business can understand their finances. We went into business, but a lot of us don't have a finance background, but certainly you've got to understand cash flow, profit and loss forecast, return on investment, customer acquisition costs, and all these other things. So we also help with that element. And then our clients are telling us we want help with Instagram, we want help with LinkedIn, TikTok's obviously exploding, so people are saying that to us. So we will, if the expertise is in the team, we will deliver ourselves for those. However, obviously vast landscape of support out there, we can't deliver all of it. So where we have a gap in our knowledge, we will reach out to our network, we'll bring in training providers, we'll fund that element so that the businesses can get that support that they are after.
It must be very rewarding to be able to help people in that kind of altruistic way as just doing your job effectively. Is there anything that particularly stands out as something that you're proud of, or you thought, yeah, that's really made a difference to that individual or that business?
That is the sort of the best part of the job, as you sort of said, because it's you support such a wide range of clients. It's not, it's not necessarily just the exciting clients are the ones that are the cutting edge of technology or really innovating and things like that. Yes, they're interested and they're very unique. However, just also supporting just your average businesses who are out there, making the world work from a day-to-day basis is hugely exciting. I've got so many clients I could kind of try and just sort of pull on at the moment that are doing such amazing work and innovating, and sort of especially during this time of the energy crisis, recovery from COVID. That is amazing. There's on the Isle of Wight, we've got Culborn Water Mill that some of you might know, but we're working with a lady who manages that, and we're looking at all the different elements that make up that tourist attraction and how that she can kind of get the most value from that site, and how she can protect the mill that's there, which is 400 odd years old, and sort of support that with heritage, whether it's a charity structure, helping them with finance, helping them with their marketing, because it's a big tourist site, but it's just a small little family team. There's not, you kind of see these sites and you think there's a big team behind the scenes. It's not, it's just a few people there doing the best they can.
Yeah.
And to be able to support projects like that, it's just, really amazing. And they're so grateful, which is, always touching as well.
Fantastic. You've talked about the context of business at the moment. It's unavoidable. We've had the weirdest, toughest market conditions, haven't we? I've been in business for 20 years and I've never known anything like it. I don't think anyone has. I want to touch on your previous career, because I know that you were a Royal Marine, which we're deeply respectful for. Kelly's dad was a Royal Marine. We know you guys are, cut from a different cloth. So I'm going to shamelessly pick on and try and make a connection. But resilience is a key part of what you would have done. And it is a key part of being a business owner, isn't it? Being able to keep going, overcome challenges. Can you offer any advice based on your background?
I mean, I think there is. I mean, I have to first just go back to you sort of saying the last couple of years, just because it reminds me of a LinkedIn post I saw from Craig Matty, who's the chief exec of Bournemouth Sevens. And he put a post up and said, does anyone else feel like the 2020s are a boot camp for business life? And I think it's very much that kind of, it's just been a challenge after a challenge and after a challenge. And I think it's just, but very much like in a boot camp, there is that kind of thing where as business owners, you're just seeing everyone pick themselves up, looking at, okay, well, what can I do? How can I be innovative? How can I change my direction? How can I open up new revenue streams? And I just had to share that post with you because it always resonates with me whenever we talk about the sort of the 2020s.
That's a great line, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, one of my sort of previous businesses that I set up was as a coach. So to sort of support small business owners around how to take a bit more of a holistic approach towards the owner of the company and how we could support them. So I brought a lot of what I'd learned in the Marines into that practice. And I think two things stick out to me. One is a focus on the mission objective rather than, the process of achieving the mission, because as we've seen or heard in the films, no planning survives first encounter with the enemy. And it's very much true. we have this idea that the military is a well-oiled machine and everything just moves and works, perfectly. It's the furthest thing from the truth. Hopefully I'm not bursting anyone's bubble here, but it's orderly chaos is probably the best way we can say. Things break, the equipment doesn't work, we're at the edges of our technology and things like that. So there always has to be, it's like, yes, we've got a plan, but that's going to go wrong. So what we've always got to be thinking is like, okay, well, what's our objective? What are we trying to achieve? So how can we adapt? How can we be innovative? How can we change the direction and our frame about how to achieve that overall objective at the end of it? And I think that mindset of not getting caught up in a process, which is going to go a little bit counter to what I'm going to say next, but not getting caught up in that process too much so that you can't adapt and change to it. And then the second element is drill. And as much as I hated drill when I was in the Marines, the repetitive actions of you taking apart your weapon, keeping yourself clean, keeping your equipment clean, all these things, they all built up to allow us to be adaptable when we were stressed and when we were under pressure. And it's those daily consistent tasks that allow us to have that flexibility. So most businesses are just made up of lots and lots of repetitive small tasks, really the core of them. So it's that kind of getting really good at those little small bits that you have to do day in, day out, will allow the big parts of your vision to kind of come to fruition. And just to sort of, the stress obviously that we were under in the Marines, especially when we're in combat tours, is just to let business owners know there is no difference to our brain's perspective on the fact of, I'm in a highly stressful situation with someone shooting at me. I'm in a highly stressful chronic situation where my business is putting pressure on me day in, day out. Our brains know the difference. In that moment, they're both in fight or flight. And it's just to, I guess, just take a step back and acknowledge the work that goes into a small business and also acknowledge the stresses of it and trying to take those moments to sort of take a bit of a breather as well during that. But that sort of a focus on the mission objective and drill, as much as I hate drill, would probably be the sort of key takeaways.
That's amazing. That's such a good way of looking at it, isn't it? And like you say, it's being comfortable with being uncomfortable, because you can't always plan for every kind of outcome, can you? And also good habits, just have good daily habits, and that's going to build something over time. I love that. I think that's brilliant. And also, recognizing, we were at the GBEA Awards, and Stephen Bartlett said, if you've kept a business going through lockdown, this was a year ago, but I think it's still relevant, you've got what it takes. You've just got to keep pushing on and keep trying to do the right thing and move it forward. And it is you're right, aren't you? I mean, everything's relative. So yes, it's not life or death, but when people are relying on you and you've got to pay a mortgage, that is a very real stress, isn't it, in your life?
Absolutely, it's a huge stress, isn't it? And also when you start employing people and things like that, or even your freelancers that start to rely on that steady income coming from your business is absolutely important. And I think, as you said, we saw so many businesses kind of focus on what is the core business that we're trying to do, and how can we keep doing this in lockdown when we're not allowed to do our business as usual. We saw some businesses pivot and go, to offering delivery services. Another Grounded Coffee in Dorset, who used to go to events, and that was their main business, going around the country doing events. And they pivoted their business, like a lot of coffee shops did, to start doing mail order. But the best thing they did by far, from a marketing perspective and also revenue perspective, was that they took their events wagon, so their 4x4 Jeep, and they would deliver the coffee and that. But when they delivered their coffee, remembering that we were in total lockdown at this point, we weren't allowed to leave our houses, they would make a coffee for you on the doorstep. So they'd make your flat white, your cappuccino, whatever it was, proper coffee, proper milk, everything else, the barista experience, and they'd hand that over to you on your doorstep. And it was just like, that was such I'm a huge coffee lover. So for me, that was like,
I can tell.
Coming down, it was just like, I snapped it on Instagram, obviously, just had coffee delivered to my door. As soon as I did that, the next few weeks, every time I saw one of my friends post, I'd see the same image, that coffee wagon pulling outside someone's house and hand delivering a hot coffee to that person. So what a great way to pivot your business, a great unintended marketing hack as well, from that, just focusing on, okay, what is it that we do? What's our purpose?
What's next for Get Set Solent? Anything coming up on the radar that we need to know about going into the new year?
So I guess as a whole, the program's continuing until July 2023. So there's still time to sort of keep involved. It's just, worth sort of following us on sort of social media, connecting with us, because we've always got new workshops coming up. We're just coming to an end of a 3-part leadership and development course that would have cost you £3,000-4,500 to attend that as a small business. We were able to give that to a small cohort of businesses for free that we sort of selected based on the size of their business and those sort of things.
So next steps, follow Get Set Solent on socials. Web address is, I can't think of it off the top of my head.
The easiest way is to Google Get Set Solent, and then that'll come up with a website, just to kind of, otherwise the URL is not the best in the world from that perspective.
Or we'll just get Izzy to put it along the bottom of the screen at this moment, so we're like peering into the future, and she can just do it for us. That's it. That's exactly where it will appear. So Steen, pleasure talking to you, and great work. It's so good to get to know you and learn about what you're doing, so thank you.
Thanks very much for having me on today. It's been great.
Fantastic. Okay, it's that time for the next Roll Izzy's fantastic animation, award-winning CGI, Kelly's Networking Gem.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So are you making it easy for people to buy from you? We bang on about this all the time. We hear people say, I do this, contact me if you want to know more. Doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that. You might get somebody think, oh, that's intriguing, I'll drop you a line. Or
that's a 99 out of 100.
Yeah,
instance.
They might write something down on a piece of paper and think, I'll come back to that. It's not really sparking any imagination. We're all time poor. We all lack attention. We're all moving on to the next thing. So where's the link? Where's the offering? Where's the service offering, product offering? What is it, ever it is you sell? Are you making it easy for me to make that next step? Because if you're expecting me as a prospective client or referrer to your products, services, I don't want to have to put the effort in. That sounds really bad, doesn't it? But that's the world we live in. So if you're saying to me, I sell this thing, here's the benefits of it to you or people you know, and do you know what? If you want to find out more, I'll drop a link in the chat, or here's my business card if you're in face-to-face and you can find out a little bit more about it. Calendly link, so you can talk to me and discuss it a little bit further. You're making that next step process a lot easier and a lot smoother. Couple that with a little bit more information. So what does it cost? What does it look like in a brief description? Not when you're doing your introduction. You don't necessarily need to drop all of that information in there, but certainly if you're asking for connections and if you're having a one-to-one, most definitely take this action, because you need to be able to give the person you're talking to that quick snippet of information as to, if this is right for you, this is what it does. Does what it says on the tin, basically, doesn't it?
That is a literal, actual networking gem, that one.
That is good networking gem.
Good for all, not just networking, but I think all of your marketing, but about becoming accessible and making it easy for people to do business with you. Because you know yourself as a buyer that you will not put yourself, you said, oh, it's bad to say that. It's not, because we are all, but if you want my money, you're going to have to do a bit of the running. And then, give me a link that I can click and buy it. And if you can't do that, you're going to struggle, aren't you?
People are also too proud to ask for price sometimes and will shy away from you because they might naturally assume that it is out of their price bracket. So if you're telling them that my price is in this range, I think more often than not, you'll be pleasantly surprised that people will look at it in a different light, and at least then know when they're giving you business or passing opportunities your way, where you sit in the market for that service or product that you're offering.
So there we go, another great networking gem. Do think about your own behaviour, particularly at networking, and try and take some of those things on board. That was Kelly's networking gem. So for the final part today of the ONLE Show, we're very lucky. We're very happy to introduce Jo Renshaw. So, well, I don't have to do a big intro now because we'll do it in this next segment, but you are going to learn quite a lot about money mindset and maybe why your business isn't going the direction that you would like it to. So let's get in our little teleport, Kelly.
Let's do it.
And go off to interview mode. So look, we made it. The teleport worked. We are now in a different space and we've got a guest with us. Jo Renshaw, hi, how are you?
I'm amazing, thanks. How are you?
It's great when she says that, Kelly, isn't it? I'm amazing.
Brilliant,
I think more people might steal
I'll
that.
I'll tell you a story about that.
Go on.
When I worked at the hotel, so I spent a year and a half working at a hotel between being a shoot producer and being a life coach. And I didn't love that job because it wasn't my life's purpose to go and be waiting tables. And it was hard work to get there. And one of the things that helped me get there was to tell myself I'm amazing. And so people were asking me at the hotel, how are you today, Jo? And I said, I'm amazing. And one day the maintenance manager said to me, you always say that, Jo. And I found myself saying to him, I know, aren't you lucky I'm here? And it completely changed my relationship with myself.
Did it really?
Yeah, because I think human beings are amazing, and we don't say it enough. We don't let ourselves know how amazing we are. Just the fact that we're alive on the earth is pretty amazing, I think, anyway.
That's the best response, I think, ever, to saying to somebody, how are you? And as a person listening to that, does it make you feel good to hear somebody say I'm amazing? Because it doesn't happen very often. So yeah, there we go.
Gold, and we haven't even started the interview yet.
There you go.
That's what we like to see, isn't it? Right, I'm going to do my formal bio bit so people understand who you are. And I've got to get this right. Jo Renshaw is a money mindset coach for business owners. In her varied career, Jo has discovered how to focus on profitable activities using the tagline, work less, make more. I thought I'd said that wrong. Work less, make more. That's great, isn't it? Straight away, good wordplay, good messaging. So Jo, once again, welcome to the Only Networking Show.
Thank you very much for having me.
We're going to now do some questions. I'm going to do the sort of boffin-y business questions, and Kelly's going to do the more fun ones. So let's see how this works out. But let's start with the expansive question. So why have you got this focus on money mindset? And I know you've got a particular angle towards helping men, which is quite unusual anyway. So explain a little bit of the background, if you would.
Yeah, so money in particular, because I went bankrupt about 9 years ago. And all the help I'd had from the bank of mum and dad, credit cards, loans, none of it had made any difference. I still went bankrupt. And it was at that point I knew that something about the way I thought about money had to change. Because if all the things I'd done hadn't made a difference, I also had been working and working hard, as we talked about before. If all the things I'd done hadn't been making any difference, then perhaps thinking about money would be different, would help. And so I was following all these kind of mindset coaches and law of attraction coaches and teachers. And I knew that I would have 6 years on the insolvency register. In the UK, you get 6 years where you can't have any credit, you can't take any loans. And so in that time, the money I was making was going to have to last me each month. So I had to learn to rely on my own skill and network to be making money. And bit by bit, I found that this worked, and my confidence with money grew. But I always had this idea in my head, I'd love to earn £30,000 a year. It seemed like such a vast amount of money to me. I think the most I'd earned maybe was 20.
That's like the average electricity bill now, isn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
It's not that long ago either.
Now we have £30,000 worth of jumpers to keep us warm.
Yeah.
So I sort of jokingly say to people, I threw all the woo at it. So I did. Honestly, I burned sage, I said prayers, I wrote affirmations, and I also worked with this amazing tool that I learned from my coach training. And bit by bit by bit, my relationship with money began to be easier. And I began to develop an understanding that I was already wealthy. We already live in a world that is already so abundant. Okay, we have more than enough water. We have more than enough pebbles on the beach and more than enough beautiful flowers. And there's so much stuff. Our resources are unlimited. And I think it's the same with money. And so I had this date of, I think it was the 11th of December, 2019 on my calendar. That I was coming off the insolvency register. And I thought to myself, if by that date I've got a sound relationship with money where I know I can always make more and I trust myself to use it well, then we're good. And I kept this figure of £30,000 in my mind. And about a week after I came off the insolvency register, I walked down the stairs in my building. I was then working for Lush, selling bath bombs for Christmas, on my way to setting up my life coaching business. And there was a Christmas card in the hallway. So I opened it as I crossed the crescent, and inside was a Christmas card for £50,000, written the day after I came off the insolvency register. And I thought, oh my God, I've done it. And it worked. And I had always had this kind of, if people think that I'm creating money by thinking about it differently, they're going to think I'm wacky. And when I opened that Christmas card, I thought, now I can prove them wrong. I was right. That is how it works. So then I had a whole other set of issues, because suddenly I had £50,000 and my brain started telling me exactly the same story as when I had no money. What are you going to do with this? This isn't enough to do everything you want to do. So I had to upgrade my self-concept from someone who had no money to someone who had loads of money, and make different decisions
in that short space of time as well.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I also think I'm going to get a Christmas job at Lush, because they give you a good bonus by the sound of it.
They give you a great discount, and they are very fun to work for. Yeah.
So how did that lead into the business specifically? So presumably you just learnt this stuff so well that you were able to go, hang on, people don't understand this.
Yeah. So I was coaching because I'd found coaching because I wanted to feel better about money. And I'd taken a course with a company in the UK, but I really wanted to train with this particular school in the US. And I also at the same time had this date of starting my business of March 2020. Ha ha ha. So that had been my goal. And of course, then I got put on furlough. And everybody around me was saying, help, I don't know what to do. And I had already put on a workshop in Brighton called What Next? So I just divided that 1 hour workshop into 4 parts and put it on Zoom and said, come to Zoom 4 days a week and let's figure out what's next.
Wow.
So I did that for, I think, about 6 months, and then started signing one-on-one clients. And it wasn't until actually about a year later that I really realized what I was teaching people was about abundant thinking and money mindset.
That's such a cool story.
I also think, because obviously we can't all sit and manifest a £50,000 check coming through the post at Christmas. So if people want to know about that, then they need to get in touch with you, don't you? And they need to find out more. So we're not going to do any spoilers there as to what happened. But you were saying, James, weren't you, about why particularly men?
Yeah. So why particularly men? I've always had 50-50 men and women clients. But a year ago, my daughter's father died from the long-term effects of alcoholism. And actually, it was just around about the time I joined ONLE. And we knew he was going to die. He'd been in hospital for a long time. And I'd always wanted to help him. Right? When we were together, it's if you're in a relationship with an addict, it's very normal to want to fix them and rescue them. But that doesn't work. So I knew that no amount of me saying to him, get help, get support, would work for him. And I looked at his life over the next 25 years, and I just kept thinking, how bad are you going to let it get? Yeah. And sure enough, it just got worse and worse and worse. And so in the last year, I've been through a real process of changing my relationship to him, and coming to understand that his addiction was a symptom of his pain, and he carried a lot of shame about things that had happened in his life. And I think if he'd had tools other than a bottle of wine, his life could have been very different. And my daughter's life could have been, our daughter's life could have been very different as well. But what I've seen as well in my clients is that the women I work with have so much access to personal development. Women are really well marketed to, and it's easy for us to get hold of that. Less so for men. And the men I've worked with have had less exposure to that. And because the tools I teach them have been kind of brand new, they've had amazing results, because this is all like opening a whole new box of treasure to them.
Yeah.
So I think men are underserved in the coaching space.
That's a really
Right.
good point. I don't think I've ever thought of it that way before. But in terms of marketing, when you see life coaches out there, they are very much geared up females, aren't they? You know, it's that way. So it's really interesting. So Jo, have you got any tips then? So give us a good tip on how we can balance the needs of business alongside our own personal well-being. I'm sure you've got loads, but have you got a top tip for us?
Definitely. So when it comes to planning my calendar, always plan in exercise and rest first. So I'm a runner, so I love to run and go to the gym. It's not everybody's bag, but I would say plan in leisure time first. Because as a business owner, and particularly in the last couple of years when so many of us have been working from home, it's very easy to work all the time. And so I also plan in meal times. I'm going to have lunchtime here. I'm going to have a walk here. And then I plan in blocks of 2-hour blocks that are going to be working time, because it has to be fun. And I have to keep front of my mind, I left a career where I was in a dark studio on trains all the time. I don't want to recreate that. And I think that's the message again for a lot of other business owners. Why did you leave your job, and have you recreated it in your own business?
Without the upsides, without the holiday and the sick pay and the stuff like that. It's a good point. Kelly's nodding at all this stuff. I'd want to see if she's going to implement some of your tips here, Jo.
Well, this is the hardest bit though, isn't it? I think, particularly if you come from corporate world, you get so stuck in that tunnel vision 9 to 5 working, you know, you've got to be at your desk, you've got to do this, eating your lunch at your desk and all of those sorts of things. I think when you become your own boss, if you stray away from that, it is quite jarring. And I think it does take an awful long time. And, you know, as James has alluded to, we've worked for ourselves. Well, I haven't for as long as James, but for a long time, but still fall into the trap of thinking those things. So I think you're absolutely right. If it doesn't go in the diary, it's going to get postponed. Before you know it, it's a week, it's a month, it's a year, and you're still not doing those things. So I do think simple, but very effective tip. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Jo, this is probably a tricky one for you because the business is still quite new, but I'm sure a lot's happened in that time. And what was the one thing you wish you knew before you started the business that you've learned subsequently?
I think the one thing I wish I knew was that doubt is always going to be present.
Okay.
I think I started my business thinking, if I hit my first goal, then all my problems will be solved. Well, when I hit my first goal, it just created a new set of problems because my brain had a whole nother story. Now we have to do that again. Now we have to work even harder. Right? How are we gonna replicate that? And so at every level, there's a whole new, what did someone say to me recently? New levels, new devils.
Yeah.
So it's knowing that achieving my goals isn't going to solve all my problems, right? It's going to, and the reason to have goals is not to achieve the goal, it's to find out who I can become in achieving it.
What a brilliant way of looking at it. Love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm definitely not the same person I was 2 years ago, and neither are you guys. Which
is why it's good to reevaluate your goals along that process, because if they've got to be fit for purpose, haven't they? So yeah,
absolutely.
Great answer. Great answer. So bit of a left field one here: early bird or night owl? Which one are you?
I'm an early bird.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like to be in bed by about 9:30.
That late?
yeah. Yeah, with a good book. With a good book. And I wake up I like to see the sunrise. I like to be up before anybody else and see the ships come in from their fishing trips and do my journaling then at that time of morning.
Love that.
Sounds very idyllic.
We're going to speak to a night owl and we're just going to be like, what? Don't understand it. Why do you do this to yourself?
Don't understand it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Jo, we always like to ask something about networking. So have you got a tip for getting value from your networking activity?
Yeah, definitely. Know that when you come to a networking event, people want to get to know you. they're curious about you, and they're interested in what you want and what you are talking about, and follow up with them. It's in the year that I've been networking, I've made such great friends. And I think what's been helpful for me is to see it as an opportunity to get to know people rather than, oh my gosh, I have to come and sell my thing. Then I just turn up like a weirdo. If I'm showing up like, I'm going to come and see my friends today, it's much more fun.
It's counterintuitive, isn't it? I think everyone has to go through that process. But when you do get to that tipping point of saying, networking is actually really good fun, and if I do it in that more relaxed way, then the business opportunities, and this is your kind of law of abundance, isn't it? They are there. The less effort you put in some respects, just by relaxing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, Jo, thank you so much for joining us today. You've been a superstar.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Good stuff. Well, there we go. This has been the Only Networking Show. Please like, subscribe and share, and we'll see you again next month.